Hey, Twisted listeners, I'm Cindy,
And I'm Diva.
and this is Twisted Listers, a podcast about murder.
And lists.
I thought I might fuck that up since it's been like a while since we
For so long,
recorded.
yeah. I was like, what's our line? What do we say?
What do we
Yeah.
do? Who are we? But I got it. We
Mm-hmm.
got it. We killed it. We did great.
Mm-hmm. Good job.
Hi, guys. We're back from vacation, our respective vacations, and
Mm-hmm.
we're recording.
Yeah.
And this is bombers, bombings, and bombers,
Mm-hmm.
bombs.
Bombers. Yeah. Lots of good puns to be made about how explosive this
It's going to be an
is.
explosive episode. This topic is
Mm-hmm.
the bomb.
Yep.
What
Yep.
else?
Yep. I do say bomb a lot to describe very good things.
Yeah, I like it too
Yeah.
because it blows your mind like a bomb.
We were just talking about some bomb charcuterie trays, for example.
We were.
Um,
One time I read a
yeah.
review that said this they're like these tacos are so good they'll blow your dick off. And I was like, I don't know if people will like that. Like that feels not as good.
I
It's just
mean, it's
generalized.
definitely conveys
It
how
paints a
good they are to
picture.
me. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it paints a picture. I actually like imagine a man with like a very distressed look on his face, like a cartoon version, and his dick just like launching away from his body, like a cartoon kind of. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Also, we had a hurricane or some fucking bullshit here.
Yeah,
Really pissed me off because
it was really
uh
dumb.
it was so dumb. They pushed my kid's school start day back one day. They canceled school on Monday because it rained on Sunday. I mean, that's literally what happened.
Yeah,
And it was
it's some dumb
ridiculous.
bullshit. I came back from my vacation one night early because I thought it was going to be a hurricane, but also not really that, but because it was they were going to cancel the trains and they did, so it was ultimately a good decision.
You had to, yeah.
Because yeah,
They canceled like everything. And I was like, you guys, it
yeah,
rained all year in Los Angeles, like super hard, like just like that.
yeah.
But
No,
the
in
news didn't
California,
use the word hurricane.
trains, planes, everything is like cancel it all. It's all done. If yeah, because of the word hurricane. And I'm like, no one realized that it hit as a hurricane in Mexico. I'm sorry, Baja, but it did. And
Yeah.
then it weakened all the way to here until it was just fucking rain.
And like in the desert, there was some destruction. Where I live, there wasn't even wind. It was just
There's no
rain.
wind.
I was
Whew.
just like, y'all, like this is anyway, whatever.
And because of the news hype, I had like 400 people texting me like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yes."
Fill your
Like,
bathtub with water and then you can drink it. And I'm like, my bathtub is filthy, first of all. Let me just call
yeah.
myself out. I would not drink that water.
I was like sitting
Um,
in my jammies watching horror movies, and everyone's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yep."
dude, I went like grocery shopping. I like played in my like Ollie played in the yard in the rain with his friend. Like it was great.
Nice.
We
It's
had
chill.
dinner, like
Yeah.
we had people friends for dinner. Anyway, you guys don't care about this. I'm just frustrated because it's like if the news tells people to be afraid, they just like are, and it's very strange to me.
Mhm.
But in any
Yeah.
case, we're back. We're gonna do bombings. Is there anything else to talk about besides me being like a grouchy old bitch? The
No, let's talk about other things that instilled fear, which is or bombs going off.
bombings. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna talk about the murder of Gary Triano. Um,
Okay.
this took place in 1996 in Tucson, Arizona, which apparently has a very large population of rich people. And Gary was among them. He was, I believe, born and raised in Arizona, like in the Tucson area. He got a degree in accounting from University of Arizona. He went to law school. I don't believe he ever practiced law. He was a real estate developer instead,
Okay.
and he made a lot of money in real estate. And he was, I think, what I'm learning, the way that people make a lot of money, besides like screwing over their workers, which is like the number one
Mhm.
way, is they diversify. They put their money into a lot of different places,
Okay.
and then they get income from a lot of different they have revenue streams from different sources. So
Gotcha.
in addition to real estate, he also was like very heavily involved in Indian casinos and gambling because in
Okay.
the 80s in Arizona, Indian casinos, Native American casinos, whatever I mean, they're called Indian casinos for better or worse. Um,
Right.
they were not allowed to like have their have casinos open. Like it had to be kind of like managed through like some sort of something or other. Basically, the state of Arizona was like, if you want to make money, you have to give white men money as well. You need like a white chaperone to like help you make money, essentially.
God forbid
And
we have any kind of money going back to the people whose like lands we stole and we massacred them and
right. I mean, and we did let them have some, but we needed like our 10%, you know. So
Mhm.
weirdly, Gary was really involved in bingo of all things, like Indian bingo,
Okay.
which is a
Sure.
big thing. Bingo's huge,
Yeah. I love
especially back in,
bingo.
like, the '80s. Yeah, it's a fun game, like, I have friends that go play it at a brewery nearby, and I'm always like, "When are you gonna
Oh,
invite me? You tell me about it every week, and you don't invite me."
that
Maybe they
sounds
don't
fun.
like me. They've had me over for dinner, so I think I'm cool with
Okay.
them, but
Okay.
no bingo yet. No bingo yet. In any case, so he was really involved in that, and he had a ton of money, and he would hang out with all the rich people, like really rich. Like he was friends with Donald Trump
Oh,
in like the
okay.
80s and 90s and they would like hang out and golf together and just do like the rich guy thing. So he would also throw a lot of really extravagant parties. And he was married all throughout the 60s, 70s, and into the 80s. He was married to a woman named Mary Cram, and they had, I think, 3 children together. And they would throw these parties. She was like the stay-at-home, wife, and, they do all these, like, elaborate parties and fun whatever, probably lots of cocaine, and at one of these parties, he met a woman named Pamela Ann Phillips, and she too was a real estate agent. She was a socialite, in Tucson, Arizona. I honestly didn't know that that was, like, a thing in Tucson, but
Oh,
apparently it is.
yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I didn't know that. So she was a socialite, and she had a lot of her own money. Like, she was a successful, hardworking woman, and when the 2 of them met, sparks flew immediately. They began an affair, and within 1 year of meeting, Gary had, divorced Mary, and very quickly, in 1986, married Pamela.
Okay.
So, yeah, just she came in and took what she wanted, and that was that. Pamela was a very pretty woman, so it made sense. And again, she had her own money, she was successful, she had, that thing about her. So now they're this power couple. Gary had more money than Pam for sure. But
Mhm.
like attracts like. And I do want to say that I think a lot of people like she's painted as a gold digger, but again, she was like a millionaire when they met. So
Right.
it's not whether or not she
He was
is,
technically richer, but, like, she didn't need money.
I always like to say a million's a million, and in this case, that's literally true, like, they're both already
Yeah.
millionaires. So, for
Oh my
whatever
gosh.
reason, I
That
think
sounds
it was
nice.
more I know, right? I think it was more like attracts like. So the 2 of them get together, they're married for, what is that, like 7 years. They have 2 children
Okay.
during this time. And everything's going really well, at least on the outside. Later on, Pam would say that Gary was abusive. He was like physically abusive. Things were not super great. I don't know if that's true. Mary, his former wife, never had that experience, but every relationship is different. People bring out different things in each other. And Gary, whatever he may have done in their relationship, he was kind of a shady motherfucker, just to be honest. He did
Mhm.
a lot of like gnarly dealings, and he really liked to be like a tough guy, like a big man. He wanted to be like the rich guy. Everywhere he went, he'd tip like $100 bills just to like show off that he could. His
Mhm.
last name Triano is not actually Italian, but he would like allude to it being Italian and would like allude to having like connections in the mob and like, I'm
Oh my
working,
god.
all these deals and whatever.
He's
And
trying hard to have that persona, like,
he is,
really hard.
but it's also kind of true because he did a lot of wheeling and dealing and a lot of like backroom stuff. He borrowed money all over town to like get his investments going. I think he was one of those guys that could like charm anyone and charm money out of anyone. And in the mid or actually early 90s, there was a big hit to the real estate market. So real estate was just in the shitter, basically. If you were a real estate agent, you probably weren't making any money. And Gary and Pam, they were used to a very particular level of like, living, like a lifestyle of a lot of
Yeah.
money. So Gary starts kind of putting all his eggs in the bingo basket, as it were. And he's like, I'm going to put all my money into the Indian bingo and gaming and really hope that that pays off. Well, the issue there was that laws were at that same time passed in Arizona that allowed these casinos to no longer have a middleman. Like they were allowed to just make their money and keep their money, which, like, what a fucking concept, right? So now Gary has no real estate income. He's got no gambling income, but he's still driving the nice car, going to the country club, doing his golf, tipping $100 bills. It's getting
Yeah.
to the point where Pam later said he was so afraid for his life because of all the people he owed money to that he was sleeping with a gun next to him in
Mm.
bed. So this was a very paranoid man, but he wouldn't stop what he was doing. He wouldn't change his lifestyle. He would rather continue this charade than take a step back and like actually get his finances in order, which I find really interesting because the people that he owed were all around Tucson. So it's not like they didn't know he was deeply in debt. So seeing him act that way was probably like even more frustrating and kind of more embarrassing in a way. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they're like, I see you tipping a waitress $100 bill, and that's my motherfucking money. Like, what are you doing? Like, you owe me money.
That is
But
really awkward. Yeah.
it's weird to keep up appearances in front of the people who like got your number. They like know what you're about.
Yeah. That would lay low and stop dropping the hundreds at that point.
Yeah, very fucking weird.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
any case, so he's living this lifestyle, but he no longer has any money. And this is exactly when things between him and Pam go sour. And once again, you could say, well, that's because she's a gold digger. He didn't have money anymore, so she didn't want to be with him. But it's equally fair to say he was an unscrupulous person with terrible business
Mhm.
practices who was essentially stealing money from his friends and associates and very potentially dealing with some really scary people. And Pam later said, there were death threats against her, the kids, him, everyone. So it was a really
Yeah.
scary situation. So in 1993, the couple divorced, and Pam takes the kids. So she gets the house in the divorce, and she takes the kids and she moves to Aspen, Colorado. So another fancy pants socialite area. And she starts working as a realtor there. But there's high competition there because those are very, even in the 90s, very expensive houses. So she's
Okay.
struggling a little bit. She's making it work, but she's not doing so great, but she's fine. Gary, on the other hand, I think is like living in an apartment at this point, but still going to the
Mhm.
country club, still giving away the money. And he meets a woman named Robin Gardner in 1994, and they begin a relationship. And this relationship lasts until his death in 1996. So we've kind of set the scene. We know what's going on.
Okay.
November 1st, 1996, Gary, whose birthday was November 6th, was at the country club playing golf, doing his thing, and he was on his way home. He was about to get in his car. He didn't know it, but there were like a bunch of people at his house for a surprise birthday party that night. So they're all
Okay.
waiting. He's going to drive home from the golf course and they're going to surprise him. Instead, what happens is he gets into his car, tries to turn it on, and a bomb goes
Mm.
off, killing
Oh
him
my god.
instantly. This is a
Wow.
pipe bomb. It blew the what's the roof? I was like, the ceiling of the car? That's not right.
Oh
It
my god.
blew the car's roof like 200 feet into the air. They found shit like blocks over. Really
Mhm.
weirdly, I both read and heard that Gary's body wasn't super bloody or like blown to bits. It was more of like he died from the force of being like thrown against the car.
Oh
which I find
god.
really interesting. Yeah, so it wasn't gory at all like you would expect from a bomb. It was
Yeah.
like internal injuries. But
Ugh.
he was dead on the scene. Like he died immediately. Hopefully it was painless. Um, and that's kind of where that goes. So police immediately start kind of looking into like who could have done this, who would have wanted to do this, and they have a list that's like, Santa's naughty and nice list. It's fucking
Yeah.
huge. They've got potential mobsters. They've got, business associates that he's ripped off. They've got, more than one ex-wife. They've got, other people in town that he's kind of dealt with. So there's just a lot of people that it could be.
Yeah.
So police start looking into all different, possibilities. They follow the mob lead because Mr. Gary here wanted everybody to think that he was a big man with all these mob
Mhm.
connections, and when you get murdered, suddenly that seems really like a fair thing to check out. Cops couldn't find anything. Couldn't find any connections to him.
Despite the mountain of shady shit that's like,
Hmm.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, nothing.
Yep. So which is weird, but good because 'cause they're like, "Okay." So then they start looking into his old business partners and friends, and nobody really has any idea. Nobody can say, "Oh, I think it was this person had motive." I mean, everybody had, like, people that they're like, "Well, he owed this person and this person and this person money," but there was nothing, like, concrete, and it was kinda the same for everybody. So, like, everybody's a suspect, but nobody's, like, a good suspect, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So time goes on and nothing really happens. It's kind of I don't know, like not a cold case, but just not super active. Now
It's
the
getting
one thing
lukewarm,
it's
sitting on
lukewarm.
the table. Yeah.
It is. It is. Uh so pardon me. They did start to focus on Pam. Even though everybody they talked to was like, "Nah, she wouldn't do it. They've been divorced for 3 years. She lives in Aspen. She has her own life. No way." And at first, cops are like, "Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like, they're ex, but, like, she's got money, she's got the kids, she lives states away. Nobody suspects her." Gary's kids, like, after his death, one of his daughters went and lived with Pam for a time to, like, get her shit together after her father's murder. He was 52 years old, by the way, when he was killed. So his kids, even the ones he had not with Pam, weren't, like, super old, they were still, like,
Yeah.
in their, like, teens. Um,
Okay.
so very, very sad. But nobody really suspected Pam except for the police. And one of the reasons that they suspected her was because about 6 weeks before his death, she had taken out a $2 million insurance policy on him. Or it
But
wasn't
they
6 weeks. I'm sorry, I got that wrong. It was 6 months. 6
but they
months
weren't
before his death.
together?
They weren't together, but she took out a life insurance
How?
policy
How?
because they had kids together. And it actually
Okay.
was paid out to the kids when he died.
Okay.
It was paid
Gotcha.
out to her kids. Now, at first you go, "Oh, that's it." Insurance policy,
Right.
murder, done.
Bip bop boop.
She had actually failed to pay the premiums on the insurance policy. So she'd stopped paying them, which is a really good way to not get the payout on the insurance. So
Mhm.
to me, to a lot of people, what that means is that she wasn't planning on killing him because if she was for insurance money, she'd have kept paying those premiums, right?
Right, right.
Now, in the end, she did get the insurance money, but she didn't know for a fact that she would get it if she wasn't paying. So it just worked out. But I did wanna kinda point that out because I think that's a good argument, right?
Yeah.
Now another reason is because in Aspen, Pam had met a man, uh, whose name what the fuck was his name? I have it written down, but I just, like, jumped away from it, and I'm so mad. Ronald. I was like, "Richard Young?" Ronald Young. So she met a man named Ronald Young. Now, Ronald was similar to Gary in a lot of ways. He had a lot of money. He was living like that very like, rich guy lifestyle, and he was a fucking hustler. And Pam has a type.
Mhm.
Now this man
Yeah.
was her yeah, this man was her neighbor.
Yeah.
He knew she was struggling. He was in the condo next door to hers, or like across the street right there. And they met, they became friendly, and people later said that they believed it was a romantic relationship. Her house cleaner, because even though she's struggling and lives in a condo, of course, she pays someone else to clean her house, which, like, no hate. I wish I could do that. Anyway, so people were saying that they potentially had, like, a relationship together. And it turned out, like, a few months before Gary's murder, Ronald was under suspicion of defrauding a ton of people in Aspen, including Pam. But for whatever reason, Pam refused to press charges against him.
Oh
And she was
my
like,
god.
"No, I don't want anything to do with it." Now, while looking for Ronald, police found a van that he had rented and then, like, stolen, essentially, dumped in Yorba Linda, California, where he had family, because he was on the run for for this fraud that he had done. And so while police are looking for him, they find this van in Yorba Linda, and inside this van, they find the divorce papers for Gary and Pam, information about where Gary lives, information on how to build a pipe bomb, I believe, or something like that. There was some sort of incriminating thing, a shotgun, and instructions on how to saw the shotgun off. Like, saw the shotgun off so you can
Just
use it essentially.
I love when people have like hella incriminating shit just in a pile. Like here.
Right. Well, the weird thing
Okay.
is this was found 2 weeks before Gary's murder. So at the time,
Mhm.
they were like, "This is an odd stack of things for this man to have," and they
Yeah.
kinda went on with their lives. But then after Gary was murdered, they kinda started to all put it together.
Let's circle back to that discovery, friends. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. However, it took them until 2005 when they were
Wow.
still looking for Ronald Young, who had been on the run since then for forgery and embezzlement, that they
Wow.
were able to finally apprehend him in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where he'd been living for a number of months. He was turned in by his chiropractor. They, like, saw him on America's Most
Wow.
Wanted and fucking turned his ass in. So
Amazing.
now he served a 10-month sentence in federal prison for weapon possession, and then he was extradited back to Aspen to face charges for the fraud. Now, during this time, they searched his property and they found a ton of taped
Mm.
conversations between Ronald and Pam. And in
Oh.
conversations were discussions of, he said, "You've got your 2, I want my 4." As in, "You've
Mm.
got your 2,000,000, I want my 400,000." Talking about the insurance money for Gary's death.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Also saying things like, "You're gonna spend the rest of your life in federal prison for what you did," basically threatening her because she had stopped
Mhm.
paying him the money that she, as far as he was concerned, owed her. Now in
Right.
these tapes, there's never him saying, "I killed Gary, you're gonna pay me," her saying, "I told you to kill Gary." That's never said, but it's a
Okay.
lot of, like, kind of incriminating shit, right?
Strongly alluded to. Yeah.
Yes, yes, but nothing concrete. Even so, police move forward with arresting Ronald and then attempting to arrest Pam. So Ronald is arrested and charged with the murder of Gary Triano in 2008. Pam hops her ass on a plane to Switzerland, supposedly to go
Oh.
visit her daughter who was in college out there, but
Oh, just don't
probably
mind me
more,
just taking a vacation. Like
yeah.
whoop, 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 whoop.
Yep. But more realistically, she's getting away from the cops. So the cops are trying to extradite her from Switzerland. The Swiss can't even find her, but they release a bulletin where the cops say, like, the United States agreed with Switzerland will take the death penalty off the table if you help us get her. So she hears that. She's not even been arrested yet. And she's already having them, like, bargain what's going to happen to her.
Oh my god.
So she fucking bones out to Austria and disappears there. But she gets apprehended and arrested on December 3rd, 2009. So she was on the run for quite a long time.
Wow.
Yeah.
European vacation. Okay.
So she was indicted in October of 2008. She was arrested in December of 2009. And Vienna, Austria, I mean, she was arrested in Vienna, but in Austria, normally extradition can take, like, years. They were like, "We don't want her, take her, take her, take her." And within 6 months, she was back in the United States, which is, like, unheard heard of. They like didn't give a shit. They're like, get her the fuck out of our country. Crazy thing, she put something like nearly $1.5 million in the bank in Austria because she was going to live with that money, and
Oh my
Austria kept
god.
it. They didn't give it back to
Oh,
America. Yeah. They're like, "This is
okay.
ours now. Fuck y'all. You can have her. We're keeping the money."
Harboring a murderer penalty. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Like, "You wanna
Sure.
bring your trash to our fucking country, you're gonna pay for it." So they kept the
Alright.
money, which I thought was amazing. So prosecutors in the trial, this was crazy. She was found, unfit to stand trial for almost 2 years because she
Oh.
was like, "I'm being followed." Like, she knew what to say. Like,
Oh,
basically come
yeah.
off as, like, paranoid and, like, whatever. So finally, she goes to trial she goes in 2012. Ronald goes in 2010. He's found guilty. He gets life, right? Uh, 2 life terms actually, because he gets first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. They have, records that show that Pam paid him $400,000. They're contending that it was so he could, kill her ex. And then they have the phone calls. They don't really have anything else, and Ronald never flipped on her. He never admitted anything. So next in 2012, she finally goes on trial, and, her trial lasts 7 weeks, and all like I said, what prosecutors have is the van, which is just, like, weird, and the phone
Mhm.
calls and the bank account information. That's it. What Pam's defense team has is the pipe bomb with DNA on it that neither belonged to her or Ronald. So, there's DNA on the pipe
Okay.
bomb that doesn't belong to
Interesting.
Gary or Ronald or Pam. So, there's somebody else on that pipe
Okay.
bomb, and they are not
Mystery.
on it. Yeah, kinda
Yeah.
crazy. She also has the fact that she stopped paying the insurance, and she has the fact that at the time you know, that he was killed, she was worth almost $2 million herself, which is
Yeah.
interesting because she was living in a condo, but whatever, that's neither here nor there. Apparently, that's true.
It was a
They could
really
prove it.
nice condo.
Apparently, I mean, there are, it's Aspen,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Sure. Aspen's expensive as fuck too,
It
so
is, yeah. Oh, yeah, especially now, but then too. So
yeah.
anyway, a 7-week trial, and then I think they took, like, a day before they came back and found her guilty of murder. And she was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole. As
Wow.
promised, the death penalty was not available for her. But she, to this day, maintains her innocence, and to this day
Mhm.
talks about all her rich and fancy friends as if she, like, just got back from a weekend vacation with them. Like, what's
Wow.
going on with the evidence kind of makes it seem like maybe she didn't do it, but just go ahead and watch one interview with her and you will be convinced that she 1000% fucking killed this
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
And
amazing.
one of the reasons that the police were finally able to charge her and indict her is that Gary's children filed a civil suit against her, and that's kinda what got the ball rolling, in the
Oh,
murder,
nice.
because sometimes if you know that somebody, like, killed somebody else, but you just can't prove it in a court,
Mhm.
like a criminal court, there's less burden of proof in a civil case, and so that's kinda how they got that
Like
started.
Rebecca Zahow from
Yep.
our my Patreon case. That's how they did that.
Yeah, yep, exactly. So anyway, that's the story. Um,
Wow.
real fucking sad. Poor Gary. But honestly, I think
Yeah.
everybody in this story is kind of like
No
not a
one's the
great
hero.
person. Yeah, no
Yeah.
one's the hero. No one's the hero.
But, I mean, it takes a lot to deserve getting, like, blown up, you know? That is pretty
Yeah, he
shitty.
didn't he didn't hit that threshold for sure.
Right, 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 and
Um
she's definitely wild, like, you can tell in the
mhm.
pictures, every courtroom picture of her, she's making, like, a different wild face of,
Yes. She really is,
she's
dude. Yeah.
yeah, she's
I
doing the most.
I think that she like was used to like getting you know, Botox and fillers, and, like, as soon as she wasn't able to get that in
Mhm.
prison anymore, like, shit started to kinda go sideways for her, so anyway, that's the
Yeah, I
story.
we've probably done, like, rich socialite murders, right? Or, like,
I
murders of the
don't
rich and famous. We did
know.
something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, murders I think we did actually Murders of the Rich and Famous, which is, like, a great
Yeah,
title. Yeah.
rich people murders are funny, because they always
Yeah.
think they can get away with it, and it's great when they don't.
And they're very, like, cavalier about it too. It's, like, really
Yeah.
weird. Like, you're like,
Like, "Oh,
"Dude,
how dare you arrest me for the murder I did?" You know, they're just,
yeah,
like, very
don't you know who
outraged.
I am?" It's like, "What?
But I'm rich. Yeah.
I'm rich." And I mean, unfortunately, to a point, like, they're right,
It
but
does work
luckily
sometimes, yeah.
yeah, but luckily in this case, it did not, so, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, there it is. There it
Alright. Well,
is.
I'm glad you did that one because I have 2. One is, like we have 2 that are similar. We have 2 pairs, and we're gonna split it. So
Oh.
so
Oh,
my one
cool.
that's similar to that one is gonna be for next time. So we're kind of doing
Okay.
contrasts.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
whose crazy ass are you doing? Because I know exactly, like, who I
Yeah.
mean, I know who I'm doing next, so
Yeah, I mean, this exactly. So this is Eric Rudolph.
okay.
Um, and he is known as the perpetrator of the Atlanta Olympic, bombing.
Oh, yeah.
Um, this is kind of a major terrorist type vibe, which is similar to
Mhm.
your guy, in a
Yeah.
way.
Yep.
And the other one is more of a personal thing, I'll say.
Mhm.
So it's similar to one you just did. So anyway, let's talk about this piece of shit.
Yeah.
And I'll fully admit, like I was 8 when this happened, and I actually didn't. I knew jack shit about this. Like I knew absolutely nothing. There's other things where I like Oklahoma City bombing, knew everything. We already covered that. I forget for what.
Mhm.
But like there's other 90s iconic cases where yeah, I was little, but I know everything about it now. Whereas
Right.
this, I had no zero clue. Zero
Oh,
clue.
okay.
Yeah. So it was new to me.
Right.
Um,
Alright.
so Eric was born on September 19th, 1966. I want to note that because he's a Virgo.
Mhm.
Which tracks.
Yep.
He was
Second most
originally from
popular.
very,
Mhm.
very common. He was originally from North Carolina.
'Kay.
Uh, and as a young man, he spent time with his mom there at the Church of Israel, which is described as a Christian identity compound. I hope you can see the sarcastic quotes in my voice.
Ooh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so this group is essentially a cult that broke off from the Mormon Church, which they found to be too like chill and progressive.
Yeah, they're like, "This is way too leftist for us."
Yeah, yeah. And they wanted to conflate essentially Christianity and white supremacy, which so often happens.
So often.
Um,
Yeah.
so often. So there are
Mhm.
a bunch of KKK assholes, a bunch of the leadership of the KKK, grand wizards, and those fucking nerds
Fucking
have all been
idiots.
involved in this group. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're also into survivalist nonsense. You know, it's the whole shebang bang.
Mhm.
Government's probably going to steal our weapons, stuff like that, right?
Right.
Classic set of things to think. Um, so Eric was reportedly so indoctrinated by this group that by the time he was a freshman in high school, he wrote a paper saying that the Holocaust didn't happen.
Oh,
And
dear.
the high school was like, like,
What do we
oh
do with
no.
this?
hmm So
Oh,
he was
no.
like deep in this shit right away because
Yeah.
indoctrination. That's how it works.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Um,
Ugh.
he then joined the army, but he was kicked out in 1989 for smoking weed.
Ow.
Thereafter, he apparently got really into several different Nazi white supremacy groups. Supremacy, I can never say that. Supremacy groups.
You said sounded great every
And
time. 3 for 3.
do I?
Yeah.
Supremacy? Anyway.
I know how that is, but
Um,
yeah, I know you sound great.
so white supremacist groups and extensive survivalist camping. So he spends lots of time out in the woods being
Can
like,
I
I'm
just
hiding, you know.
I know you hate camping. My
I do.
vacation
Yeah.
was camping. I fucking
Mhm.
love camping, but I just need to know why the type of people who are into, like, survivalist shit and camping are always these motherfuckers. Like, the crazy, hateful, racist weirdos.
Mhm.
Why aren't
Well,
there any normal
it's the
people?
motive in camping. I don't know that it's for them as much about, like, love of nature or, like, just needing this peace and quiet as it is or, like,
Waiting for the
outdoor
race war?
recreation. Yeah, they think they're, like, practicing for the apocalypse, you know? They think they feel
Yeah.
smug that they have some skill that's gonna prepare them for when the government persecutes them, the white man, right?
Yeah, which is
Um
gonna happen as it so often does, so
Yeah, yeah.
Oh
So anyway,
god.
so that's a little bit about Eric. We're just
Okay.
gonna fast forward right into the middle of the action here,
Mhm,
because there's not much else to say about him before this point.
mhm,
Um, but on July 27th, 1996, in Atlanta,
mhm,
uh, Eric left a homemade pipe bomb in a backpack under a bench in the middle of a very large crowd at the Centennial Olympic Park, where
mhm.
the Summer Olympic Games were being held. Atlanta. And at the park, people were actually watching a concert, so it wasn't like it was kind of the pre-celebration.
Mhm.
And just before the bomb went off, um, Eric made sure to oh my god, I didn't write this down. Eric made sure to call it in. So he called it in and be like, "Oh no, I think there's a bomb." Like,
Oh god, what a fucking dork.
just so
That's
you know, like
terrible.
he kind of like partially taking credit, but partially just like being a dick.
Mhm. Yeah.
So one person, 44-year-old Alice Hawthorne, was killed in the blast. She was there watching a concert with her 14-year-old daughter, who was
Oh,
also injured.
that's fucked.
She was hit by numerous pieces of shrapnel. It was a really gruesome death. Uh, just to talk a little bit about Alice Hawthorne for a moment here to
Mhm.
spotlight her. She was a mother of two young girls. She ran an ice cream and hot dog shop named Fallon's.
Oh.
Like, this is a very wholesome person.
Aw, that's fucked up. Ice cream and hot dogs are
Yeah,
fucking great.
and her daughter's name was Fallon, so it was named after her.
Oh,
Um,
no.
yeah. So just to say she was a really lovely person all around. She also mentored youth in her free time. She did like charity work. So it's like
Mhm.
I always think of how like not ironic, or I guess maybe that is the word of like this piece of shit killed someone who just happened to be like
Right,
delightful.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the opposite of him. So
Mhm.
on so 112 people though are also injured by shrapnel from the blast. Photos of the scene after the bombing show just like smears of blood on the pavement. Like it's really bloody because people have
Mhm.
horrific injuries.
Right, from it's all the shrapnel.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's similar to the Boston Marathon bomb, in the way
Mhm.
that it exploded like pointy shit at everyone, right?
Yeah.
Um, on his way to the scene, also, a cameraman named Mil Uzenal died of a
Mhm.
heart attack. So
Oh.
he's actually cited as kind of the second fatality of the day because it's thought that this stress of this event really killed him,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
literally. So, in the FBI's investigation, which of course this is like an FBI thing, right away, it's a terrorist fucking thing.
Mhm.
They have a criminal profile of the unknown bomber developed. And for whatever reason, they decide that a man named Richard Jewell, who was a security guard at the Olympic Park, fits this description. And so they decide he's a suspect. And Richard Jewell actually came onto the radar of everyone initially because he's the fucking hero of this story. He first raised alerts about the abandoned backpack prior to it exploding, like right away after it was placed, pretty much. And he led a team of some other guards who actually definitely saved lives because they swept in there and cleared the area of people immediately around the backpack.
Wow. So they were
So
just
there could have been definitely more casualties
yeah, sounds like
if
it.
they had not done that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was led by him, so of course he's a
Yeah.
suspect. Yeah,
Yes, but they considered him suspicious because he like knew about it, and their idea was that he planted it to be that hero
to be the hero.
figure.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely
Hmm.
a thing. It's not unfair to, like, kind of at least explore that,
No,
because
it's not
that definitely
impossible,
happened.
but
Yeah,
yeah. So after questioning him extensively to no results, the FBI released to the fucking press that Richard Jewell was a suspect, which is a
that's
wild move on the FBI's part. I'm just going to say that right now.
yeah, that's really
um,
fucked up.
yeah. And also because a lot of sources at the time were like, an unknown source says it. I'm like, it's the FBI. Holy
Yeah,
shit,
yeah,
they this press led Richard Jewell to be subjected to a horrific ordeal of media harassment where people pretty much in the press and elsewhere just decided that he did it 100%. You know how
yeah.
people are.
Oh, yeah,
um yeah, authorities did searches of his home repeatedly. He was under 24-hour surveillance. His family was harassed, and he was only cleared in October, so he had to deal with this for about like 4 months.
that's fucked. I hope he could fucking sue for that shit, like, that's
Oh yeah,
insane.
he did. I'll come back to that. Yeah.
Oh, good, okay,
He
good.
did. Don't worry. But the complete focus on Richard Jewell on from the FBI, from everyone, meant they did not have uh the real guy, Eric, was let go, right? To do
Mhm,
other things we'll talk about in a second. And they didn't have a clear conception also of this like idea of a domestic terrorist, or like the profile wasn't correct, basically.
mhm.
Um, and they didn't get that this was a serial bomber, domestic terrorist. Because spoiler alert, he's going to bomb more. um,
Oof.
while they're busy looking at Richard Jewell.
Yeah. Being idiots.
Um, yeah. So as I mentioned, what's Eric up to here while the FBI is doing a bad job? In January 1997, he bombed an abortion clinic in Atlanta.
Jesus.
Um, the following month, he bombed an Atlanta lesbian bar named the Other Side Lounge.
So he's just
So we get his
really,
agenda pretty
yeah,
clearly. Yeah.
big time piece of shit.
Um, at the Other Side Lounge, 5 people were injured, including one woman whose injuries were just so horrible. I just decided to tell you about it.
Yeah. Oh, great.
She had an artery in her arm punctured by a shrapnel nail.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So she's just like profusely bleeding. And just described seeing that and being like, "What? Whoa!"
Yeah. Yeah.
What the fuck? So after this attack, several media outlets in Atlanta received letters from Eric because he really wants to make calls and write letters and shit.
Hmm.
Um, so all these letters spouted his dumbass fucking beliefs. He referred to himself as a member of the Army of God, which is, I guess, whatever white supremacist group he was into then, or I think still is into.
Hmm.
And he claimed responsibility for the abortion clinic bombing, which thankfully didn't kill anyone.
Hmm.
But still,
Right.
in
Right.
1998, Eric was named a suspect uh, in the bombing of another abortion clinic in Birmingham, Alabama. In this bombing, a pipe bomb loaded with nails that he planted actually killed a security guard and maimed a nurse at the
So
clinic.
why is he like a suspect but not like he's not being arrested? Like he became a suspect after the fact
So yeah,
or
I will tell you right now how he
okay.
came to be a suspect. It's not through the
Okay.
FBI or any like investigation. It's through the like just citizens being cool.
Got it.
Um, so he came to be on investigators' radar as a suspect because a witness to this particular 1988 Birmingham bombing saw Eric walking away in a suspiciously calm manner as people rushed towards the scene. Right, he's walking away like
Just
boop,
like
boop,
doop
boop,
doop doop
boop.
doop.
This was
Yeah.
great, yeah.
Mhm.
From
Mhm.
the mayhem, and they followed him, and he and another witness were like, "Fuck that guy! That guy's the bomber." And they got his description and took down his license plate number.
Nice. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so that's how he comes on the radar. FBI is not finding him. Yeah.
No, FBI is just holding their dicks in their hands, essentially.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So he was formally, eventually, they put together evidence around these bombings first, and then later Atlanta,
Mhm.
and charged him with this series of bombings later in 1998. But once he's
Mhm.
formally identified as a suspect, which why are you doing all this press? FBI, just go get him. Like, why are you
Right, if
doing
you
so
know
many
where he is,
announcements?
just go fucking get him. Yeah,
Yeah. But I guess they formally identified him and told the press again, and he subsequently flees.
of course.
So Eric is gone. Um, in 2000, for some reason, he was federally indicted on 23 more charges, including a bunch of the other bombings. I'm not sure what the delay was about, but they put it all
Mhm.
together by 2000, but there's no Eric.
Okay.
So boop 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 backwards a little bit here to 1998. Um,
Mhm.
apparently, I don't. This is the most random fucking thing. I didn't get that much on this, but I just have to mention it. Apparently, to protest the FBI and the manhunt to find his brother for the crimes he definitely did,
Mhm.
Eric's brother Daniel filmed himself cutting off his own hand.
What?
That's his protest.
So
Yeah,
this is like a real stable family just generally. These are
really
like
cool.
quality people. These
Cool
parents should be
guys.
proud. Jesus
So
Christ.
doctors reattached his hand. He was fine, I guess, but that happened.
That is just bizarre, dude.
It's special.
Yeah, it's
So
very fucking
while
weird.
Eric is missing, like I said, he gets a spot on the FBI most wanted fugitive list, and the FBI launches what would become a $20 million manhunt through the hills of Appalachia, which kind of makes me mad. Like, I want them to find him,
Wow.
of course, but I'm like, Jesus Christ, they have too much money, right?
That's way
Um,
too much. I mean, Appalachia,
too
like
much.
that's a gnarly place to have to find
Yeah,
somebody. He's definitely
yeah.
the right kind of person to be out there. Like I feel like
Hmm.
could have just safely lived among the people out there forever,
Yeah.
having family from that area. So,
So yeah. So this manhunt is a huge deal. There's a show on like I forget what network, like Manhunt, like
Mhm.
and it's there's a season about this that where they fictionalize and dramatize like famous manhunts.
Right.
Um, there's a bunch of things I found very uninteresting about how this search pioneered new methods of like federal and local officials working with each other and different all these like 400 different agencies talking to each other and like I don't care, but like just
Yep,
so you
don't
know
care.
that it's like it happened. And to like people who care about that stuff, this search was a big deal and very expensive.
Very expensive. That's the part I care
Um,
about.
yeah, it's dumb.
Dumb. Dumb, dumb,
So
dumb.
boop, 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 boop. Fast forward 5 years after he's officially named a suspect. In 2003, Eric was finally captured by authorities after an officer spots him going through a trash can, like a little raccoon uh, guy, behind a grocery store in North Carolina.
Mhm.
Thankfully, the FBI had told the local authorities in North Carolina and various places to be on the lookout for this fucking guy. His picture was everywhere, right?
Which is
And
crazy, like, what was he doing? Like, living in the fucking woods and just came out to, like, dumpster dive for some snacks?
yes, that is
That's
exactly what
exactly
he was
what it was.
doing. Yes, yes, he needed some
Jesus.
snackies. Yeah, and the 20-year anniversary, by the way, of his capture was just this past May. So there was a couple articles about
Oh,
that.
alright.
Um, so what was he up to in those 5 years? You ask. You were just getting to it.
I wanna
He was
know.
camping,
Yep,
survivalist camping, in the North Carolina woods, living off mostly food he stole from local restaurants.
okay, because he's not a very
Um,
good survivalist, he can't even fucking hunt
no,
or grow anything.
no, he
5
did
years, he
hunt.
couldn't make a fucking garden? Like, get out of here.
Yeah, he supposedly did hunt some deer and some other animals, but he mostly is snacking on restaurant stolen supplies.
Restaurant
Um,
scraps, okay.
he but I wrote theorized, but the more I read, it's less theorized and like more. That's the wrong word. I would say it's definitely 1000% thought that he had accomplices helping him. So like many
Yeah,
people were probably bringing him stuff and knew he was there of
that's
the
what I
Nazi
mean, like,
persuasion, right?
yeah, where he was, he could have lived forever had he not been caught. Like, had he
He
not,
had, he, yeah,
he would have had the support forever.
he had a support network of folks who thought he was a cool Nazi hero, and they were fucking
Mhm.
giving him snackies, little
Yeah,
snackies on the side,
and
right?
helping him out, yeah.
He also these woods are right by where he grew up too, in that
Mhm.
compound. So like he knows exactly where fucking the creek is and the fucking wherever the fuck, right?
Right, right, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. So oh well, gigs up because he was getting rummaging for snacks in trash cans.
Mhm.
Um, in 2005, Eric eventually ends up pleading guilty to all the various charges. He gets 4 life sentences plus 120 years.
Wow.
Um, I'm not sure how he avoided the death penalty, probably by pleading guilty, I'm guessing.
Mhm, mhm.
From somehow, I don't know how, but after he's all this happened, he's sentenced, he pled guilty, he's allowed to release an 11-page manifesto explaining his motives for the bombing. Like he releases a statement, and I'm like, could you guys not give this guy a fucking statement? Like that would be the best thing to do to him is to not let him talk.
Not give him the
Um,
platform that he so desperately obviously
mhm.
wants, and it's like, our morbid curiosity is not worth giving that guy a fucking
Yes,
platform, like,
they let him do his little manifesto thing, which is
mm-mm.
really cute for you, Eric. So glad. But he goes into all the stuff you pretty much expect that his motives would be. He's
Mhm,
really principally obsessed with being like opposed to abortion. That's his big thing. And also
mhm.
just like a whole slew of other conservative things that you'd expect. He
Right.
also talks about like really dumb stuff like the Olympics and celebrating global socialism, which I just wanted to sprinkle in there because I'm like, this is a very capitalist event. Like
Right.
I don't I don't think it's a socialist event, my friend. Like I don't know what Kool-Aid you've been drinking, but it's very
Yeah,
capitalist. There's
that's
McDonald's, there's commercials, there's fucking okay.
God. It's like whenever I see somebody
Anyway,
on Facebook be like, "California," and I'm like, if
if only
fucking
yeah.
only.
No, capitalist fornia is what we fucking are.
Yeah,
Like
big time. People are so
yeah,
stupid. They
no.
don't know the
People
words
just
they
say
use.
socialism. They just put the word socialism when they mean like I don't like it or like it's
Yeah,
bad. They don't
when
know what
it's
it means.
yeah, yeah. It's
Mm-mm.
not like the, like,
No.
supreme version of rugged individualism, so they're like, "You're fucking commies." It's like, "No.
What?
The
Yeah,
education
and
system failed you so miserably." Oof.
yeah, so very strange reasons for not liking the Olympics. Um,
Mhm.
at his sentencing hearing, they did let victim Alice Hawthorne's husband Eric speak, so that was good. Like talking about fuck you and like how hard it's been without his wife.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know that he said fuck you. I was just inserting that he should have.
I always find it weird that
Um,
people don't go more off in those statements. They're always
yeah,
so composed, and I'm like, I
they're
would
also
be like,
gracious. Yeah,
"Yeah,
no.
not me. Not me. Jesus
So
Christ."
a few final points here. Eric still maintains a web page on the Army of God website, which that group apparently exists and hosts many different various serial killers and criminals like himself.
I was gonna say, is
And
Israel Keys part of Army of God? I feel like he
it
was.
sounds like his thing, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I'll have
Uh,
to look it up.
maybe no, actually, maybe it was the same thing. Well, or no, because he got into Army of God later. He started in Church of Israel. Um,
Right.
so two different groups, very similar vibes though.
Lots of culty
Um,
shit going on. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, they still let him have a little web page there where he's got a slew of anti-abortion and racist and generally terrible blog posts. But I wouldn't recommend giving him the web traffic. But I know some of you probably are going to Google it just to like hate read.
Yeah.
But yeah, but be warned that he does have a lot of photos of like dead fetuses kind of stuff.
Oh, that's just
Um,
unnecessary.
Yeah, I really don't like that. Really, really don't like
Yeah.
that. Also, side story, my in grad school there was like a horrible anti-abortion group that would come and like have those big giant like banners of
Mhm.
pictures of like dead babies and dead fetuses and like my friends actually campaigned to like stop that and successfully got them to like get the fuck off campus.
Really?
Um yeah, because that's
Oh,
like
that's
offensive. Like you
awesome.
can't fucking show that. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
come with your
Good.
have a pamphlet if you want, but don't fucking traumatize me, like,
Yeah, that's weird.
um,
Also,
I'm
that
like,
shit,
what if
like, doesn't
someone
really bother me. Like,
yeah, but, like, what if someone, like, was really triggered and, like, had lost a baby or, like, you never know what
no,
people
for
have gone through,
sure.
like,
For
that's so
sure.
fucked up.
No, absolutely. But, like, yeah.
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 Anyway, he also has a 31-page essay on his website, railing about on feminism, if you wanna read that, Cindy, I know you're, like,
Oh,
itching to read
cute.
it. He's really mad about that. He talks about, like, traditional gender roles and how women should be, like, cooking and stuff, right?
Oh, that's so cute.
Um,
He's
he's
yeah.
yeah,
Good luck in
he's
prison, buddy.
so he's still doing him. He's still, just like rolling on forward. But just a little conclusion to the story of the wrongly accused Richard Jewell, who's kind of like the parallel story here.
Right.
The Justice Department actually investigated the FBI's conduct and how they treated him, which of course you can only guess. They concluded that the
They
FBI
didn't
did
do
nothing
anything
wrong because they're
wrong.
basically the same entity. So it's kind of
Right.
stupid.
Right.
It's
I've
like the
decided I
Spider-Man
did nothing
the
wrong. Like,
Spider-Man meme pointing at each other. It's like, yeah, you're all
yeah.
the same. Uh,
Yeah, exactly.
but it did lead them to censure, which isn't fire, but like officially slap on the wrist 3
Mhm.
FBI agents. So they did find 3 people to be like, you fucked up officially. So
Okay.
that was the most that they did. But for Richard Jewell, he succeeded because he successfully settled out of court with several lawsuits he filed against various papers and media outlets, including CNN.
Nice. Fuck you, CNN.
So he did get a fat payday
Good for him.
because of this. Yeah.
Good.
Sadly, Richard Jewell only passed away in 2007 at the age of 44 of heart disease. And of course, people
Oh,
said that this caused him a lot of ill health and anguish, this whole experience.
I'm sure. Yeah, that's life
Yeah.
ruining, honestly.
Yeah. His story was also dramatized in the 2019 critically acclaimed movie titled Richard Jewell, which was unfortunately directed by Clint Eastwood, who sucks. But
Oh, yeah, he really
supposedly it's a
does.
good movie. Yeah.
Even
Um,
a broken clock, like, he can be a good director even though he's, like, a shitbag, you know?
yeah. Well,
Like,
there's other people that go into making movies as well besides the director.
yeah,
So
totally, totally.
but yeah, anyway, that's the story of Eric Rudolph, a piece of shit who's really honestly like not that remarkable in the landscape of survivalist, pathetic, bigoted Nazi people. Like he's kind of like
He
my
seems
eyes are
really
rolling.
pedestrian. Like, he just seems
Really
really, like,
pedestrian.
average.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not even
Yeah.
smart, and, like, you couldn't even
Especially
survivalist, you had to fucking dumpster dive. Like, what the fuck?
especially because he's still alive. And not that people ever listen to any of our stuff per se that are like famous serial killers, but like just in
Right.
case, I want to let him know he's not that good or special or impressive
Yeah,
of
not at
a
all.
killer. No,
He's not impressive at all, honestly. And again,
no,
nothing against people who like eat out of trash cans. Like, I'll be completely honest that like my family used to get
no,
groceries out of trash
no,
cans like when I
no,
was
no,
young
no,
and we
no
were really
shame.
poor.
And
I'm
also,
just saying for somebody who's like,
I know you've
oh,
jumped into dumpsters for all kinds of stuff as
oh, I
well. So,
still do. I tend to not eat the
oh,
food anymore, but like I still will
right,
dumpster dive like
you'll
all the
get
time.
in
I
there.
love it. It's
Yeah,
like my favorite. Yeah. Finding shit on the side of the road is like the best thing that could happen to me
yeah.
in a day. Like,
No,
honestly.
no shame into people who are doing it because they're fucking hungry, but, like, for
No.
this guy in particular, it's embarrassing because he's, like, thinks he's the
I'm a
coolest survivalist in the
survivalist.
world.
It's like, okay,
Yeah,
bro. Like, yeah, you not only
sure.
did you have help, but you also like just couldn't survive. Like, you couldn't do it.
Yeah,
Had you gone
that
far enough away to not be able to walk to a grocery store, your ass would be fucking dead. And like,
yeah.
that's silly. Whatever.
No, it's
Anyway,
true. He
it
did not
is.
actually
He would
survivalize
not
at
have
all.
been a good contestant on the show alone. He would have come up with some fake excuse for why he was sick and
Oh,
had
man.
about a week in. Telling
I
you
would
right now.
tap out on something like that in fucking 2 minutes. Be like, "No.
I mean, I
Mm-mm.
can't survive. If I could survive, I'd probably make it a few weeks before I'd be like, I'm really lonely and I want to go home. But as of right now, I
No."
could make it like 3 days before I'd be like, I'm so hungry. I have to go.
Yeah.
So I
No.
don't mind admitting
Have
it. Whatever. I
No,
don't
I
know if
wouldn't
you
even
guys
do it.
haven't
I wouldn't
seen
attempt it.
if you guys haven't seen the show Alone, it's really, really awesome. Recommend it to anybody who wants to watch it. It makes you want to be like a badass survivalist, but like then you like realize
No.
what that would entail and you're like, nah, never mind. But it's fun to watch.
Mm-mm.
Anyway, okay, there's part one. Sorry, we're a couple days late. We took our vacation very seriously, took a couple extra
Mhm.
days. Also, like everybody at my house has been like sick, and I had friends in town after I
Mhm.
went out of town. So it's just been a weird week. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back with part two in just a couple of days here and getting back on track with our normal schedule. Um,
Mhm.
Please like, rate, review. I see a lot more reviews on Spotify. Thank you so much. Share with your friends, tell everybody. And until the next half,
Stay.
off our
Let's.
list. Stay off them.